Good morning and welcome, everyone. I would like to thank you for being here today to say a final goodbye to this wonderful woman, Marguerite Jean Garland, better known as Peg or Peggy. To those of you gathered here today, especially those who have cared for Peg, I would like to express the family's gratitude for you being here. Your presence helps the family realise how valuable Peg was to others and shows what an impact her living and dying has made. Peg was sadly lost to us on Saturday, the 21st of May, and although this has caused grief among those who knew and loved her, it is the family's hope that today is a celebration full of joy and love. So please, instead of just grieve for Peg, remember the memories you had of her and cherish the 99 years that she was here to walk this earth. Now, I heard that Peg loved to shop, and she often took shopping to the next level. She was a classy lady with exceptional style and loved anything bright and colourful, which is probably a great representation of her personality. Peg adored her family, and those close to her knew that her grandchildren and great-grandchildren were extremely important and special to her. Peg has made an impact on each of her loved ones, and she will be sorely missed by them all. Today we honour this wonderful woman who touched many lives. We will stop to hear the stories, to laugh or to cry together, and to acknowledge that we are different and forever changed because Peg was here. Throughout this service, we will also listen to some lovely music selected by the family. We will hear some poetry and see photos from Peg's life. Now, I would like to keep my part of this service quite brief, as Stuart has helped put together a lovely and personalised service for his dear mum. So it is my pleasure to welcome Stuart up now to begin the tributes.
Acapulco, what a sexiest bit of clarinet playing. One of her favourites. The music has all been selected from her past, and it's all important. The last one is the Maori farewell song. And for Doherty staff, it's interesting, she was always known as Peg. And the day she walked in, someone said, "Peggy," and she went, "All right, I'll be Peggy now." You never knew that, did you? Yeah, right. Glasses time. Welcome and thank everyone for attending this celebration of the life of my mother, Marguerite Peggy Jeanette Garland. Welcome to those on the live stream. Welcome to our granddaughter Rosanna, Chris, and great-granddaughter Liliana in Canberra. Welcome to grandson John Archer in Kalgoorlie in WA. Welcome to granddaughter Emma and Ashley in Tyndall, Northern Territory. And a welcome to grandson Robert and Holly and great-granddaughter Ruby in Loftus, Sydney. And welcome to family in her beloved New Zealand. And welcome to other friends and family. And welcome to my mother's extended family for 10 years, Doherty Villa. My mother lived a very full life with plenty of twists and turns, often doubling back on itself and throwing many surprises. I hope to give an insight to a life well lived. Mum was born in Wellington, New Zealand in 99 years and 9 months ago. She was delivered in her grandmother's home. Grandmother was a midwife. The birth was easy, and my grandmother was labouring and called out, "Look in the chamber pot," and Mum was there. She spoke of a carefree childhood, family gatherings, picnics and long walks through the streets with her lifelong friend Jules. Mum had one brother, Charles Robin. He went by his middle name Robin. Mum's maiden name was Hood. I had Uncle Robin Hood. While Mum's very French name, Marguerite Jeanette, relates back to her father who served in the Medical Corps in World War I. He served at Gallipoli as a stretcher bearer and was one of the last 4 to jump on the last barge to leave the beach on the withdrawal. He went on to France and was billeted with the French family. Mother's name comes from these wartime experiences. The carefree life in Wellington was to change in the advent of World War II. Mum was celebrating her 17th birthday the evening World War II was declared. The party became very sombre and broke up. Many of the guests had served in World War I and knew the horrors of war. Mum's education at Wellington Women's College showed her to have a flair for writing, and she had a beautiful handwriting, as you can see from the program. Yeah. Also, she had a good head for numbers, which she also put to good use. The following was written by my mother in 2001 in an unsent letter to her granddaughter, Rosanna. It's a beautiful piece of writing I found in her papers. So I'll let Mum's beautiful prose take you back to the war years in Wellington. Now, this is a straight quote. This is written in Mum's hand, and there was not an error, not a cross out, nothing. It was just beautifully written, which just describes my mother. So here we go. Come for a ride during World War II. During the war years, I was always well dressed, despite clothing coupons which restricted buying. My talented mother made nearly all my clothes, despite never having sewn or cooked prior to her marriage. We had coupons for clothing, stockings, when we could find them, tea, sugar, meat, butter and petrol. The coupons were restricted to a certain amount each month. If you ever used these coupons, you had to wait for the next issue. Some food coupons were still in use when Granddad and I married in 1949. My hair was always styled in a perfect shoulder-length page boy bob. Envy of all my friends, and achieved with tin hair rollers, put in every night. There was no such thing as setting lotion or conditioner. I don't know how I achieved it during the wet and windy spells. This is Wellington. Invisible hair nets made from human hair were a godsend. Also snoods and headscarves tied under the chin, such a ghastly fashion when you look back. I asked Angie what a snood was. Okay, anyone know what a snood is? It's a round scarf. I had to Google it. The manpower department took over our lives during the war. Jobs could not be changed without the permission, and some of the staff were very bombastic. In fact, one threatened to send me to work in a munitions factory. Luckily, the next man I saw was very pleasant, and he told me to hurry on down to the United States Marine Corps office, and there was a position vacant, and one of the officers wanted his girlfriend to get the job. I was the lucky one and was employed by them for £4 and 5 shillings a week, $8.50, a large sum compared to my friends in civilian jobs. I was only thinking when I was reading this, we could have got an American pension. I had to submit the names of 4 people for references, and the secret police questioned all of them to my reliability as to statistical figures I worked on were highly confidential. To this day, I'm exceptional at keeping a secret. When the Marine Corps left, 4 of us from the organisation were transferred to the United States Joint Purchasing Board, the organisation that did the buying in New Zealand for the US troops. I stayed with the Joint Purchasing Board until the end of the war, once again doing statistical work with figures in millions of pounds. The Americans were wonderful escorts, and for the first time in our lives, they presented us with a corsage when we were going out to a ball. Usually it was an orchid, which lasted for weeks in a vase. Florists must have made a fortune from the US forces during the war. So that's the end. And if you know Mum, you could hear Mum talking there, couldn't you? Yeah. Only in the last couple of years did Mum elaborate on the work she did for the Americans. It took a bit of convincing on behalf of me for her to divulge. The war was over 70 years. The Japanese were our friends. For family history, what did you really do? Mum did a little bit more than keeping boring statistics. She kept the books on all of the US armaments. She said howitzers, tanks, jeeps, heavy machine guns. I had all the lists. I was shell-shocked. She had all of that at her fingertips, yeah. Mum's photos show a stunning woman, perfect hair, beautifully dressed with dark eyes that seem to look into a young man's soul and more than capable of stealing their hearts. She certainly turned a few heads. 4 suitors paraded through her life during these years. 2 really thought they had a hand in marriage. 1 was too old, and the other one I have no backstory on. Mum was engaged to Noel Dunn, a returned serviceman. I asked her, while in Doherty, why they broke up, and the reply was, he loved me too much. Noel does return to play an important part in Mum's life. Then along comes an Australian bank clerk to Wellington on a 14-month contract to help out with the manpower shortage as New Zealand lost a lot of men during the war. How a drover's son born in Wee War stole the heart is quite a mystery. In every photo of Dad taken in those years, he has a grin like the cat that's just swallowed the canary. And if you look in your order of service there, every photo has got Dad just like that. Yeah. 14 months turned into 14 years, and the family with Lachlan, aged 7, and myself, aged 18 months, came to Australia. Dad worked for the ANZ Bank, and in 1963 he was granted his first bank manager role in Mudgee. In those days, bank managers were highly respected, and Dad had wealthy graziers as customers. Mum was the perfect hostess. A few times a year they would host 11 a.m. drinks on Sundays after church for select customers. I have a fond memory of Dad pouring Johnny Walker Red into a Johnny Walker Black bottle whiskey and saying, they never know the difference. It was Mum's catering that was a showstopper. Food was presented that guests had never heard of. This is the 60s, yeah. One dish was Lebanese lamb kibbe, a recipe from a Lebanese shoe shop owner Mum had befriended. The lamb is spiced, minced twice with onion and cracked wheat, before being spread in a baking tin and baked. I remember, this is funny, I remember Mum going into the very conservative Mudgee butcher, I was just a young whippersnipper, and asking for the lamb from a boy lamb. As per recipe, yeah. Mum loved the bewildered and embarrassed look on the butcher's face. Yeah. As for the dish, it was beautiful and was woofed down. Mum was an exceptional cook. I'm lucky enough to have learnt to love cooking from her. I have hundreds of her recipes, beautifully written on cards and sorted by main ingredient and in an alphabetical order in wooden Cardex boxes. Doherty staff have seen those boxes, yeah. In writing this section, I went to the box marked savoury, to lamb, to Lebanese. I had the lamb kibbe recipe in my hand in under a minute. That's how organised the system is. Dad was transferred to Gosford and then on to the Grafton branch. That was our very first home, directly opposite. Here he met Fran Hampshire and they instantly bonded. Both had quirky personalities. Fran was an ideas woman. Early in their relationship, Fran organised a radio telethon to raise money for a Rathcar orphanage. The plan was simple. Fran would go on Radio 2GF and ask for donations. Mum asked about keeping track of the mummy. Fran apparently said, oh, I hadn't thought of that. We'll just collect it. Well, Mum, being the bookkeeper, nearly had kittens. Mum made a ledger with name, address, phone number, amount pledged and amount collected. Together they were quite a team. Dad retired from the Grafton branch and moved back to Mudgee. They lived comfortably in a house they built on a small acreage with views overlooking the township. Dad potted on the property and planted trees. Mum maintained one of her favourite hobbies, shopping. She excelled at shopping. She had a very small foot and was always on the lookout for Italian or similar shoes on sale due to the small size. I remember her coming home one time following a shopping expedition to Dubbo with 4 pairs of Italian shoes she'd picked up at a bargain price of under $800. She was honestly chuffed at the money she'd saved. That is serious shopping. At one stage, she had 130 pairs of shoes, all in their boxes, dated, where purchased, and the price. That was the organisation. The 4 grandchildren loved going to Mudgee, being greeted by the dog, the boys following Grandad around the garden, and the girls learning the inner secrets of hardcore shopping. The meals were always a treat. Mum's roasts were legendary, as all her cooking. None of us have mastered her crispy roast potatoes with cloud-soft melt-in-the-mouth centre. Christmas Day was special. No traditional roast with hours of preparation on hot summer's day, but chicken in a basket. In the morning, small-sized 10 chickens were oven-roasted with orange juice. They came out of the oven to cool, golden and sticky with caramelised juice. Come lunchtime, Dad would halve them, and the halves going into a bowl that sat in a little basket with a paper serviette. The chicken was then adorned with fresh pieces of summer fruit. Finally, a ring of pineapple held a glacé cherry, which sat like a well-placed fascinator. The meal was easy to prepare and looked absolutely stunning on the table. No doubt the recipe is at my fingertips if I go to the Cardex boxes. Dad died in 2007 and Mum stayed in the house. Not alone, she had Tui, the corgi mutt. They always had a dog, there was always a corgi mutt, and they were always named after a New Zealand parrot. Around 2011, Mum's life double backs on itself. Noel, her first fiancé and now widower, re-enters her life. They'd kept in contact through letters. There was nothing secretive or clandestine about this relationship. The friendship had been maintained. Dad had a huge heart, and jealousy or envy has never been a part of our souls. Noel came over from New Zealand for 3 months. He wanted to stay in a motel, but Mum wouldn't have a bar of it. I remember the phone call from her. She was seeking approval about having an old flame stay. I thought, I can't pass judgment, as long as they're being honest and respectful. So I did say to Mum, and there was a pause, what does Tui think of Noel? And she said the dog loved him. He's fine by me, and it was fine with Lachlan. Not long after Noel left, Tui died, and Mum fell and broke her wrist. Mum was lonely and wanted to be near me, so she moved to Doherty Villa, a few days short of her 90th birthday, 10 years. For nearly 10 years, the villa was her home, and she arrived cognitively intact and using a wheelie walker. At the villa, she has gracefully aged to be bed-chased and mildly cognitively muddled. In those 10 years, the care Mum received has been truly exemplary. That's from the heart. The care and empathy makes me proud as a nurse and a son. Thank you. I knew that last bit would touch my heart. Now we've got some floral tributes here. Now all these flowers, they're all out of our garden and Hilda's garden. And we're going to put some music on, and please feel free to come up. Take a flower, have a reflect on how you knew Mum. Listen to a bit more lively music, a bit of Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass to get you moving. And then we will continue after that.
I would now like to welcome Stuart back up to read the poem that's in the Order of Service booklet that you all have. And I'm hoping he will read another poem if he's brought it along. No, that's okay. I read another one out of Peg's Book of Wonders last week. Once Stuart's read this poem, we're then going to watch a photo presentation of Peg's life.
Remiss of me, I should have actually brought that poem. Anyway, one poem's enough. The poem, Testament by Kay Starbird. What a beautiful name, Kay Starbird. Kay Starbird is a little-known American poet born in 1916 and died in 1993. A search on the internet sheds very little light on this woman with the wonderful name. She wrote a handful of poems and a couple of children's books. However, some of her poems were published in American women's journals. As a child, I remember Mum getting American journals. These journals would have given Mum a link back to her fond days of working for the Americans in World War II. The poem, which is in the Order of Service, is written in my mother's most beautiful handwriting in the 1960s. Mum kept a special journal of poems. This one was the very first page. Mum's final day saw her receive the finest palliative care a son and a nurse can wish for. Thank you again, Doherty Villa. I found great solace in reading this poem while quietly sitting with her. It gives them a strong humanist and environmentalist nature, as well as giving me clear direction in the scattering of her ashes. Mum's estate is going to take our clan to a beloved New Zealand, her ashes to be cast on the winds. I want no burial when I am dead, no grave to hold my body shattering slowly beneath the earth, untenanted. Burn it and throw the ashes to the wind. The wind may yet remember where to go, and it will search across the world and find 100 places that I used to know. For an epitaph, say only, it is over. She loved the earth, but she has gone away. Some of her ashes lie in summer clover, some on the hilltops where the low clouds stray, and some are caught amongst the elms and firs that once she so foolishly believed were hers. That is such a wonderful, wonderful bit of poetry. I'm so glad Mum wrote that out so many, many years ago. Well, that finishes my formalities. Next is the slideshow. The first is a beautiful piece of music, Mantovani's Moon River. You know, just wow, it just takes you back. Thank you.
such amazing photos in there. I thought when I was going through it, Peggy's eyes alone tell a story, I feel like. They were so bright. Marguerite Garland, may your love be reflected in all who knew you, and may you continue to live on through the lives of those you leave behind. Your legacy is the memory of a great name and a great example. And so, into the freedom of wind and sunshine, we let you go. Into the dance of the moon and planets, we let you go. Into the wind's breath and the hands of the star maker, we let you go. And into the sadness and smiles of our memories, we let you go. Go safely with love in your heart, and may you forever be at peace. As we gathered here today, we have been recollecting with love, respect, and affection the life of Peg. Let us now return to living our own lives with these memories of her, which I know you will cherish, and with a determination to live life more intensely. On behalf of the family, I thank you all for coming here today, sharing in this celebration of Peg's life, and for the warmth, sensitivity, and support that has been given to Peg and her family over the last few days, weeks, and even years. Before we finish our service here, there's one last piece of music to be played, which is called Now is the Hour, and that is the Maori farewell song. Feel free to sit here as long as you need and listen to the music. And when you're ready to leave this place, you're all invited to the Crown Hotel for an informal gathering and to talk a bit more about Peg's life. Thank you all.
Thank you, Maddie.
You're welcome.
Don't you think you can see John Garland in there?
I could see Rosanna in that one. Yeah, and John. Yeah. I thought a bit of her.